when you build your life on what's eternal, not just what's urgent. You don't just succeed. You become unshakable. Live by higher principles. That's the foundation of a life that stands the test of time. It's not just about doing what's good. It's about doing what's right, even when it costs. It's about choosing truth when a lie would be easier. It's about being kind when anger feels justified. It's about serving when no one notices and forgiving when no one deserves it. Higher principles are not just good ideas. They are anchors. They are convictions that don't waver with emotion, popularity, or convenience. When you live by higher principles, you start building your life from the inside out. You don't react to the world. You lead yourself through it. The world says climb higher, grab more, be first. But principles remind you that the greatest among us is the one who serves, the one who gives, the one who lays down ego for something greater. In a culture driven by image, higher principles demand authenticity. In a world driven by speed, they teach you patience. And in a society chasing applause, they ask you to live for a deeper approval. These principles act as your compass. They don't promise the shortest route, but they will always lead you true. They whisper to you in private, and they echo in your choices when no one is watching. And over time, they shape your character into something that doesn't just impress, but inspires. You become a person others can trust, not because you're perfect, but because you're principled. There's something powerful about walking into a room and not needing to pretend, not needing to manipulate or dominate or prove yourself. That kind of peace comes from living aligned with values that are higher than you. They're not invented. They're inherited from truth. These principles don't change with trends. They don't adjust to culture. They're ancient, they're tested, and they're strong enough to carry your life. When storms come, and they will, you find out what your foundation is made of. If you built your life on feelings, fame, or fortune, those things vanish like mist. But if your life is rooted in integrity, humility, love, faithfulness, and self-discipline, nothing can steal your peace. Not loss, not betrayal, not uncertainty, because you're not standing on sand. You're standing on rock. Living by higher principles doesn't mean life will be easy. In fact, sometimes it makes it harder. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be overlooked. You'll watch others take shortcuts and win applause while you're taking the long road in silence. But remember, integrity will take you places talent can't. Character will keep you where charisma can't. And peace of mind is worth more than any platform. This way of living also creates legacy. Not just success, but significance. Because people may forget your achievements, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. They'll remember your steadiness, your compassion, your courage to do the right thing, even when it cost you. And long after your voice is quiet, your example will keep speaking. So live by higher principles, not just for others, but for your own soul. For the joy of laying your head down at night with a clean conscience. For the satisfaction of knowing you didn't compromise what mattered. And for the deep, quiet strength that comes from knowing your life is not built on shifting sand, but on something eternal. Prioritize inner growth before external gain. That's the quiet discipline most people overlook. The world celebrates the visible, status, possessions, influence. But real strength starts where no one sees. It begins in the heart, in the private moments of decision, in the battles no one else claps for. You can build a career, a name, even a reputation, but if the inner man is hollow, everything collapses in time. The soul must grow before the platform rises. The character must deepen before the opportunities expand. Otherwise, the weight of success will crush what the foundation cannot hold. There is a deep danger in chasing applause before alignment. You can win the crowd and lose your peace. You can gain followers and lose yourself. What good is a title if it costs your truth? What good is wealth if it leaves your spirit bankrupt? The path of wisdom teaches us to grow from the inside out, to choose discipline over distraction, to become before we appear. When the inner life is strong, the outer life can flourish with purpose. But when the inner life is neglected, every achievement becomes a shallow victory. The most powerful lives are not always the loudest ones. They're steady, rooted, quietly resilient. They've learned that strength is not just about what you can carry, but about what you can let go. They've learned that patience, humility, self-control, these are not signs of weakness, but the highest marks of maturity. And maturity doesn't come by accident. It is forged in silence, in surrender, in choosing what is right when no one is watching. Growth of the inner man means asking the hard questions. Am I becoming more patient, more generous, more faithful in the little things? It means looking in the mirror and confronting what still needs healing. It means choosing to forgive instead of holding grudges, to wait when rushing feels easier, to obey even when understanding is delayed. These choices don't always bring immediate reward, but they always bring deep transformation. There's something sacred about a person who has done the inner work. They don't need to impress. They don't need to compete. They move with grace because they've made peace with who they are. Their presence speaks even when they're silent. They carry the weight of wisdom, not the noise of pride. They've learned to value process over performance and heart over hype. And when storms come, they do not shake because they're anchored not in opinions, but in truth. External gain can be deceptive. It promises fulfillment, but often delivers emptiness when pursued without soul. The world may call you successful, but only you know if your heart is settled. And nothing external can fix an internal void. That's why growth must begin within. When your identity is rooted in what's eternal, not in what's fleeting, you live free. You work hard, but you're not enslaved to outcomes. You pursue excellence, but your worth is not up for negotiation. You lead others, but you're not driven by ego. You live out of overflow, not desperation. This kind of life is rare, but it is worth everything. Because when the inside is whole, the outside becomes a tool, not a trap. Success becomes service. Influence becomes impact. And instead of chasing validation, you walk in purpose. That's the power of inner growth. It doesn't always get noticed first, but it always lasts the longest. Start each day with alignment. Before the world demands your energy, before the phone starts buzzing, before the deadlines, the meetings, the opinions, there must be a moment of centering. A moment when you choose to begin not from chaos, but from clarity. There's a deep power in what you do with the first minutes of your morning. It sets the tone for everything that follows. And if you rush into the day without pausing to align your heart, your thoughts, and your intentions, then you're already behind, no matter how early you started. In the quiet of the morning, before anything else lays claim to your mind, there's a sacred opportunity to get in touch with what matters most. It's not just about routine, it's about realignment. Each day brings distractions, some loud, some subtle, but all designed to pull your focus from what's eternal to what's urgent. But when you begin your day with purpose, you're not reacting to life, you're leading your life. You're walking into the day with your spirit already anchored, already filled, already reminded of who you are and what you're here for. Alignment is not just about reading or praying or journaling. It's about positioning your heart to receive direction before giving out effort. It's recognizing that your strength isn't enough, that your wisdom isn't perfect, and that your own plans are limited without a greater perspective guiding them. Starting your day this way doesn't guarantee that the day will be easy, but it does prepare you to handle it with grace. It's the difference between chaos ruling you and you ruling over chaos with peace, clarity, and wisdom. Too often, people rush into their day already tired, not because they lacked sleep, but because they lacked alignment. They carry burdens they never laid down, fears they never surrendered, goals they never submitted. And then they wonder why anxiety follows them. The truth is, without morning alignment, you're fighting battles without armor. You're trying to give your best while running on empty. But when you start with alignment, you trade restlessness for rest, confusion for direction, and hurry for presence. In that quiet space, you begin to see your day not as a list of tasks, but as a mission. Each encounter becomes an opportunity, each obstacle a classroom. You stop chasing results and start trusting the process. You stop striving and start walking with purpose. Your identity isn't tangled in performance. Your confidence isn't shaken by criticism. And your joy isn't stolen by pressure. All because you didn't skip the most important part of your day, the moment when you aligned your heart with what's unshakable. The enemy of alignment is distraction. The noise of the world will try to own your attention before you even get out of bed. That's why this decision must be intentional. It won't happen by accident. You have to choose to pause, to listen, to reset your thoughts before the current of the world pulls you under. The most successful people spiritually are not necessarily the busiest or the loudest. They're the ones who've learned the sacred discipline of starting with alignment, no matter what else is on the calendar. This rhythm creates spiritual strength. It teaches you how to hear before you speak, how to pause before you act, how to surrender before you strive. And over time, that morning alignment shapes not just your day, but your life. It becomes the daily moment where heaven meets earth in your soul, where your heart bends toward truth, and where the rest of the day flows from that quiet, powerful beginning. Serve something greater than yourself. That's where true fulfillment begins. The world teaches self-promotion, self-protection, self-centeredness. It tells you to look out for number one, to climb higher even if you have to step on others, to succeed even if it means standing alone. But a life that's only about self will always feel small, no matter how big it looks. You were never created to live for applause or possessions or comfort alone. There's something inside you that longs to be part of something meaningful, something beyond. There's a quiet nobility in living for a cause greater than yourself. It doesn't always make headlines, but it makes history. And you give it time, energy, not because it benefits you, but because it blesses others who start to walk in your direction. That's the strength of purpose. It carries you in passion. It gives you direction when circumstances are and it gives your life a weight, a status, a love. Serving something greater than yourself doesn't mean you're letting go of yours. It means you're part. It means lifting your eyes beyond temporary satisfaction, asking deep questions. What legacy do I leave? Whose life is better because I live? What impact will outlast me? Those are not the questions of a selfish person. Those are the questions of someone awake to the divine call on their life. Because true greatness is not measured by what you build, but by what you build for others. Not by what you gain, but by what you give away. Living this way demands sacrifice. It won't always be glamorous. Sometimes it looks like staying when it's easier to leave. Sometimes it's forgiving when you want to walk away. Sometimes it's choosing faithfulness over recognition and character over convenience. But the reward is deeper than applause. It's the peace of knowing you are aligned with something eternal. It's the joy of seeing lives transformed, not because you sought glory, but because you showed up with a willing heart. This kind of service brings clarity. When life gets hard, when decisions are heavy, you won't be swayed by ego or fear because you know you're part of something bigger than yourself. You're not just living for the next opportunity or the next win. You're living for a higher calling. And that calling gives you courage. It gives you patience. It gives you a reason to keep going when nothing around you makes sense. Because when your why is greater than your comfort, you'll find a strength that doesn't quit. The beautiful thing about serving something greater is that it multiplies. What you give doesn't end with you. It flows into the lives of others. It becomes legacy. It becomes testimony. And while others may chase after the next big thing, you walk steadily, faithfully, planting seeds that will bear fruit for generations. Your life becomes a message of hope, of integrity, of unshakable purpose. You don't have to be famous to make an eternal impact. You just have to be faithful. You don't have to have it all together. You just have to be willing. Willing to serve when it's hard. Willing to give when it's costly. Willing to live not just for today, but for what matters most. And when you do, you'll discover that the richest life isn't the one filled with things, but the one poured out in love, in truth, in purpose beyond yourself. So as you walk through life, remember this. True strength is found not in how high you rise, but in how deeply you're rooted. Build your life on higher principles that don't shift with culture. Focus on inner growth before chasing outward gain. Begin each day with alignment, and let your purpose be anchored in something greater than yourself. When you live this way, you won't just make progress, you'll make impact. You won't just chase success, you'll walk in significance. And in the end, your life won't just be remembered, it will be felt in the lives you've touched and the legacy you leave behind. Thank you for your time, your heart, and your willingness to listen. May your journey be guided by truth, and may you always have the courage to put what matters most first.